First time here in the Senate. Welcome to the Senate. And we will be aired on not only the ones that are witnessing the session personally, joining us here in the Capitol Hill. We also have Facebook coverage live and cable television. So with that, this is the first day, third special session. Today is Thursday, July 15, 2021, here in the Senate chamber, approximately 10:05 a.m. And I would like to call this session to order, and I please request everyone to please stand for a moment of silent prayer. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Senator Cruz?
Here.
Senator De Leon Guerrero?
Here.
Senator Hoku?
Here.
Senator Hochschneider?
Okay.
Mr. President? Senator King Neighbors?
Present.
Senator Mangonia?
Here.
Senator Kirua? Senator Sablan?
Present.
Senator Santos? Here. Mr. President, all 9 members are present.
We have 9 members, with 9 members present, have been called for today's session. Under item B, in the public comment, this is the portion of our session that we open the floor for any member of the general public to provide testimony on any of the order of business in today's session. Let the record reflect there's none. Before I go to item C, I would also like to recognize the presence of the settler, Ms. Amy Shai. Welcome to the Senate. And I also saw the protocol and officer in the governor's office, Ms. Vicky, earlier today, or earlier. Under item C, reading and approval of the journal.
None, Mr. President.
Messages from the governor.
Mr. President, we have got one Governor's Message 22-71, submitting the revision to the proposed budget for the Commonwealth government and related agency for FY 2022 beginning October 1st, 2021 and ending September 30, 2022.
Governor's Message 22-71. Any comments from? Before I recognize anybody, I'd like to ask the chair if he wants to. Any comment, Mr. Chair? We're good.
Yes, just to make a short comment, Mr. President, that we were waiting for the governor's revised submission of the budget from the first submitted on April 1st, and we're hoping to see if there's any increase of revenue on their July 2nd submission, and unfortunately the submission of the revised is the same with the submission from April 1st. So with that, the committee have decided now to entertain the concurrent resolution passed by the House on this special session. Thank you.
I just want to see Chairman Hoku. Any other member? To recognize Senator Edith Younger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have a brief comment on the governor's message 22-71. It brings me back to the initial notification to the legislature dated March 29, 2021 from the Office of Grants Management, where it clearly states that over $500 million in federal dollars still remain unexpended or unobligated. And this is inclusive of regular discretionary disaster and COVID-19 grants that are under the purview of the executive branch. And how I relate this particular message, our letter back in March 29, 2021 to today's message of the governor under 2271. Specifically, it talks about Volume 2, to add new grants received by the Commonwealth after April 1st with an updated fund status as of May 31st, 2021, and so forth. I wonder, moving forward in terms of the financials of the CNOI government, with respect to the budgetary process and all the funding for every respective unit of the government, if anywhere in these volumes, is there any recognition of an assumption of up to about 10% of the administrative takeaways of federal grants, up to 10%, which if we were to calculate over $500 million of unspent federal money, it translates into $50 million of administrative funding for each respective unit that is a recipient of federal grants. So I just want to point that out, that in the future, as the body deliberates the budget for the Commonwealth, that these particular issues be addressed. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Villamor. Any further? Senator Moreno, recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is on the governor's message 2271. Mr. President and members, I am not one to belabor a point on an issue if I believe it is frivolous and unnecessary. What transpired in the last Senate session pertaining to the decision to have House Bill 2233 be removed from our final reading calendar cannot be taken lightly, Mr. President. The decision by the President to bypass the motion offered and seconded on the floor to vote on House Bill 22-33 was made because, according to you, Mr. President, the Senate had just received this message that I'm talking about today, 22-71, on the revision to the proposed budget, that somehow this communication would shed more light to the discussion. Thus, your decision to agree with Pro Leader Senator Vinnie Sablan to remove House Bill 2233 from our final reading calendar because, as he argued, the motion to place it in the first place during our May 18, 2021 Senate session was in violation of our Senate rules. Mr. President and members, here's the picture of what transpired. Here's a copy of the Senate Journal 22-06, which each member have. And in this Senate Journal, I'm not going to read it out, but from page 7 to 14, it talks about what discussion transpired. But after all of that, the President himself asked, "Is that a motion?" And I responded, "Yes." The motion was seconded. The President then asked if there's any further discussion, and everyone said yes. And so you asked all those in favor for the retraction of the motion by Senator Manglona for the passage and to place it. Everyone said yes. So that's what happened on that session of May 18. And then in our last session last week, the call for that session by you, Mr. President, dated June 18, 2021.
Senator Moreno, can I interject? We're discussing the governor's message, and I think you are going out of order.
Mr. President, I don't think I'm out of order. This is
Yes, you are. You're talking about
I'm coming to that point, Mr. President, and I'm just raising this comment as part of my comment on this governor's communication. So if you would just allow me, this is not to debate anyone, I'm just commenting. So it's not debating on anything.
Is there bearings to the governor's message?
Mr. President.
So can we get to the?
Yes. So my point, Mr. President, what I'm trying to say is that that's actually before this body, and that we should consider that. And its connection to 2271 is that we cannot pass, this body cannot pass a budget bill without somehow incorporating the ARPA funds. That's my point. And that's why I'm saying that we need to pass 2233, because that would be by law the statement by this body on its work on our fiscal plan for this year for the Commonwealth government. And if we're just to take what the governor say under 2271, and then the fiscal and the Ways and Means work on a budget, what assurance do we have? Take, for example, medical referral program. If they put X amount from local funds, which I doubt they're gonna put any significant amount, and then Y amount for ARPA money to be put for medical referral, if we do not pass 2233, there is no assurance that the governor, the next day after the budget bill is passed, would take away significant funding for medical referral. That's just one example. So the more reason why in working with the numbers, we need to be sure that the numbers are there, and under the law, only with an act by the legislature signed by the governor can you make changes to the appropriation. And if we're just going to follow the governor's proposal and talk about 100 million in local funds and then say, oh, for information purposes, this is what's going to complement it, this program, that's not the way this is going to work. So all I'm saying is we need to put back House Bill 2233. We need to do our job. And unlike the fiscal year budget debate in this fiscal year, we should not sit back and just give 100% of our power of the purse to the administration. We are voted to represent our people, and we should do our best to do so, because if 2 years from now we do not maximize these federal funds that our hardworking congressmen have given us, this funding from ARPA, we're going to be scratching our head, and we're going to be up for a rude awakening.
Thank you, Senator. Any other member? Ready? Communications from the judiciary, clerk?
We have none, Mr. President.
Communications from the heads of executive department?
None.
Communications from the House?
Yes, we have one. House Communication 22-42, House Joint Resolution 22-7 regarding the United States Coast Guardsmen.
Any comments? Recognize floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. And under the communications from the House, I believe there is this does show up on a resolution calendar. And I believe there's a time sensitivity on the action from this body, as we do have an audience with the Coast Guard officials on the 28th, and it is vital that this communication and House Joint Resolution be acted on by this legislature. So at this time, I'd like to offer a motion to place House Communication number 22-42 in reference to House Joint Resolution number 22-7 in today's bill calendar. So,
A motion offered by the floor leader for the placement of House Communication 22- House Joint Resolution number 22-7 in reference to House Communication 22-42, and has been seconded. Discussion.
Ready?
All those in favor of the motion for the placement of House Joint Resolution number 22-7, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Item H, clerk.
We have none, Mr. President.
Communication from Washington delegate,
None,
unfinished business,
none,
refiled bills, initiative, local bills, and resolution. Introduction of bills, initiative, local bills, and resolution. Reports of standing committees, reports of special conference committee. Resolution calendar, floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. And our first resolution on today's resolution calendar is House Concurrent Resolution number 22-1, HD1, to approve revenues and resources of the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands as identified pursuant to Article 3, Section 9A of the Constitution as amended, and 1 CMC Division 7 for fiscal year 2022, beginning October 1st, 2021, and ending on September 30, 2022. Mr. President and members, I move for its passage.
Here's the motion offered by the floor leader for the adoption of House Concurrent Resolution number 22-1, HD1. Do I hear a second to the motion? And then seconded, discussion. The chair recognizes the chair for fiscal affairs and political.
Thank you again, Mr. President. I think this is the appropriate time to, under the discussion, to provide an amendment to the resolution 22-1 HD1 in trying to remove or delete one of the whereases starting from line 4 to line 8. And the reason being, Mr. President and members, that we need to remove or strike this out. Our counterpart from the House did unsuspend some of these earmarked funds and did not reflect on the available resources column of any reduction of what was unsuspended. And if we are to proceed and pass the House Concurrent Resolution 22-1 in the form of HD1, it will not reflect the total local revenue resources available for appropriation for this fiscal year 2022. Therefore, we need to remove the unsuspended whereas here, so that it will reflect the figure as stated on section on item number 3 from the total local revenue and resources to be appropriated for 2022. And that's my motion. If that can be further discussed, Mr. Chairman, but I make that motion to delete that whereas, one of the whereas on page 2, line 4 to 8.
Thank you, Chairman. And the motion is an amendment to the resolution 22-1 HD1 as read by the chair, as Enrico Cook, and also provided to the members, and it's been seconded. Any discussion? Further discussion? Ready? All those in favor of the motion as offered by the Chair of Fiscal Affairs, amending House Concurrent Resolution 22-1 HD1, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Back to the main motion. Further?
Thank you.
Further discussion?
Thank you, Mr. President. And just for clarification, the amendments offered by the Chairman of Fiscal Affairs is on page 2. At this moment, we're at the main motion, and I'd like to restate the motion, and it is House Concurrent Resolution 22-1 HD1 to approve revenues and resources of the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands as identified pursuant to Article 3, Section 9A of the Constitution, as amended, and 1 CMC Division 7 for fiscal year 2022, beginning October 1st, 2021, and ending on September 30, 2022. Mr. President and members, I move for its adoption in the form of SD1.
Second.
Of the motion offered by the floor leader as read, House Concurrent Resolution 22-1 HD1 has been seconded. Ready? Chairman Hope?
Before we vote on the main motion, Mr. President, I just want to assure the members that by deleting this part of the whereas, just to let everyone know that this section will be addressed in a different form, and it will be provided the funding necessary to address this unsuspended section that the Senate just took action to delete. So I want to assure the second and third senatorial delegation that their concern will be addressed very soon in regards to this unsuspended section of this concurrent resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. So, recognize Senator Edith Villamor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am following the discussion on removing this particular provision on the second whereas on page 2 of this concurrent resolution 22-1, HD1. But it also strikes me with the statement of that the funding will be identified to fund this earmark accounts that were suspended for many, many years. And I'm wondering, where is the funding coming from? Because ARPA specifically talks about prior to COVID-19, which is prior to COVID-19 fiscal year is FY19. And if we ask ourselves today, since when were these earmark accounts were suspended? What was the beginning of the fiscal year that these accounts were suspended? And if we are to touch ARPA money to fund these suspended accounts, earmark accounts, could we be potentially in violation of the usage and allocation and appropriation of ARPA money? Because ARPA, again, speaks specifically the year prior to COVID-19, which is fiscal year 2019. We need to be extremely careful that we do not find ourselves in another situation like the $8 million unapproved overtime by FEMA, when the federal government comes in and audits the CNMI government on its usage, appropriation of ARPA money, and we find ourselves funding accounts that were not, affected by coronavirus. So we have to be extremely careful, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Edith Villamor. Being no further comment, I would like to call the roll.
Mr. President, I just want to respond to Senator Edith. We are pretty much careful in how do we spend money that is not ours, and money that will assist the department in a different form. But I am talking that we have discussed this with the Secretary of Finance, deleted to be part of the concurrent resolution will be addressed for the second and third senatorial district. So I am very confident that the Secretary of Finance himself is very mindful and keenful in how to utilize the funding that is made available by the federal counterpart. And I'm pretty sure that he will have another source of revenue prior to the end of the fiscal year to provide and service the second and third senatorial district from what they have contributed to the general fund to address the 7-31 issue from the retirement back then. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Hope, Vice President. Gilbert?
Mr. President. Mr. President, just to provide further clarification on Senator Edith's comments, the earmarks were suspended on the FY21, not many years. It was suspended on this fiscal year. And the recommendation is to continue suspending it for FY22. And the advantage of this suspension is PSS. If we do not suspend this, PSS allocation, which is the public school system, on the budget will go down probably less than 20 million. So that's why the FY21 budget, suspended these earmarks so we could provide more money to our kids. So with that, I hope that the suspension is clarified and where the money is going to for the deletion of the unsuspension section on the concurrent resolution. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Vice President. Thank you, Vice President. I'm gonna recommend one more, then we're gonna call the vote on this, Senator Malone.
Yes, I was okay initially, but then I guess it's still fine, but I just want to point out that the mere act of deleting this section, if one were to go back and read the legislative history, it would mean that technically funding going to the very program that is being suspended technically means that we're substituting funds. So I wish it was here so that we don't have to take it out, but the fact that it's here and you scratch it out gives you that the intent of this body is to continue suspending it. So if you now that it's here and we take it out, it means that any replacement, substitution of funds for the project, for example, under Public Law 20-59, it means it's substitution. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we've heard enough on the matter. So I'm gonna call the vote on this concurrent resolution.
Mr. President,
Senator,
just before we go to roll, the main reason of suspending this section of the concurrent resolution is the fact that the failure to identify additional revenue when they unsuspend this part of the whereas, meaning that if they unsuspended this, then the figures should reflect the reduction of what was unsuspended as a result of the impact of this unsuspended portion. And that is why the recommendation that the amendment that I offer to take out this, because it is not balance what they unsuspend and the figure that reflects on the total local resource revenue was not reduced, nor it was added up. And that is the reason to be consistent with the resources to be appropriated this fiscal year should balance what was unsuspended if there is money added, and if not, then it should be subtracted from that side. But today, it still reflects the same figure without reducing the unsuspended portion of this concurrent resolution. Thank you.
Ms. Osmasi, Chairman Hoko. So with that, Clerk, can you please call the roll for the adoption or the passage of House Concurrent Resolution HD1?
Senator Cruz,
Yes.
Senator De Jong Guerrero,
Yes.
Senator Hopwood,
Yes.
Senator King Neighbors,
Yes.
Senator Mangonia,
Yes.
Senator Quirigua,
Okay.
Senator Sablan,
Okay.
Senator Santos. Mr. President,
Good.
Mr. President, all 9 members voting yes.
With 9 members voting yes, House Concurrent Resolution 22-1 HD1 hereby passes the Senate in the form of Senate Draft 1. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our last resolution on today's resolution calendar is House Joint Resolution number 22-7 in reference to House Communication 22-42. And this is a House Joint Resolution to honor and commend the United States Coast Guardsmen that have served the CNMI under the leadership of Admiral Carl L. Schultz. Mr. President and members, I move for its passage.
Motion offered by the floor leader for the passage of House Joint Resolution number 22-7, and it's been seconded. Discussion. Senator Teresita Santos.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to thank and commend the United States Coast Guardsmen that have served our Commonwealth, most especially to Admiral Carl Schultz. Thank you.
for his selection of Lieutenant Commander Christine Torres Igizomar to be his military aide. As some of us may know, Lieutenant Commander Christine is a native daughter of Saipan and is the first female from our Commonwealth to rise to the rank of Lieutenant Commander. I'd also like to thank and commend the United States Coast Guard for providing career opportunities to our youth and residents, such that 5 from our Commonwealth have received appointments to the Coast Guard Academy Scholars Program. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Senator Santos? Senator Maloney, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too would like to thank the commander, Commander General Schultz, and as well as the Coast Guard Academy. I understand yesterday the 5 Coast Guard Academy scholars actually had their first day ceremony in Connecticut. And so we congratulate our 5 students as listed here in the resolution, and we thank all other Coast Guardsmen that have served us and for the good things that they have done to our Commonwealth and for people, Caesar's Mosque.
Thank you, Senator Paul. Any other member? Senate Vice President Dua?
Mr. President. Mr. President, we should all be proud of Mrs. Igizomar. She's a product of our public school system. Before she enters the Coast Guard, and she was very active during her junior years in school on the Teen Talk program. And these are the group of teens that will come on the radio and discuss issues relating to teens. And I'm very proud because I have sat during their presentations several times when she was in there, and seeing now how far she has gone. And it's a proven fact that public school students can go as far and as high as they would like. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Vice President Hewitt. Any further comments? Ready? All those in favor of the motion for the adoption of House Joint Resolution 22-7, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. House Joint Resolution 22-7 is hereby adopted. There being no other items before the Senate for action on today's session. If there's no objection, I will direct the attention of the members all the way to item Q. Issues, memorials, and miscellaneous communications.
None, Mr. President.
Announcements. Thank you. I do want to remind and invite the members, the official invitation has gone out to the Commandant, as we are inviting the Commandant Schultz, and he is be accompanied by his the other visitors that he bring along on July 28th. We're going to be meeting likely over at the House Chamber jointly with our House colleagues, and the details will be announced soon. But July 28th, the Commandant Admiral Schultz will be visiting the legislature. Thank you. With that, for a leader for the adjournment.
Thank you, Mr. President, and at this time, I move to adjourn this special session, subject to the call of the President.
With the offer motion by Authority for adjournment, and the seconded. Before I officially adjourn, I recognize the presence of our youth senator, is Easton De La Cruz. Sorry, I didn't recognize you earlier, Senator Spencer, but thank you for joining us. All those in favor for adjournment, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. The Senate session stands adjourned. So, thank you.